On farms, tragedy can strike in an instant. Join me and orchardist Sandie Barden as we discuss how she weathered one of the greatest losses there is on today's episode of Food, Flowers, and Fun. If you're the woman who does it all, farm work, housework, bookwork, homework, getting up at the break of dawn, this is the podcast for you.
How do you multiply by fractions, Mom?
Get away from the cares of the day. Free stock, rootstock, feedstock, seed stock. Chat with women around the world who raise food, flowers, and fun. With your host, Kay Castrataro. That's me.
Hi, Kristen.
Stinker. She zoomed me. So welcome to Food, Flowers, and Fun, Visits with Farm Women from Around the World. I'm your host, Kay Castrataro, and that is Sandie Barden from Barden Family Orchards. And we are sponsored, as always, by Penlight for Farmers, who is helping you to create purposeful farm lives full of time, energy, and abundance. So as you can tell, Sandie and I are not strangers to each other. She's actually kind of family, married in family. So that's one of the fun things about growing up on a farm family is that you know lots of other farmers. So Sandie, welcome. How are you today?
Great. Thank you
You
for
were
having
plowing
me.
snow, right? When we just
It was one of the first times I've actually done that.
this. Yeah, we just had that big storm come through that went like the whole country pretty much got covered in snow. So Sandie, I don't do a whole lot of, small talk. I just kind of want to jump right in and get to know our farmers and share their stories and, talk about how we take care of ourselves in this lovely, difficult job that we have. And so can you just start by telling us how you got into farming? And we'll kind of move on to that as we go.
Ooh. So you know how you said I married in? That's how I married into farming. So I'm part of the group by name, not by blood. I grew up in the suburbs. And I went to URI and got a degree in wildlife biology and management. And then I went to work for a consultant for a year and then Rhode Island DEM. And that's where I met Gilbert Barden Jr. And we worked together for a lot of years. And um,
At
then
DEM. You work
at,
together at
at,
DEM.
at
Yep.
DEM, yeah. And so
That's the Department of Environmental Management. For those of you who are not Rhode Islanders, I realize we're already throwing around alphabet soup. URI is the University of Rhode Island.
oh yeah, I guess I do that. Oh
No,
no.
we all do it. We all do it. And I only become aware of it because I realize that I'm talking to people from all over the place. So,
All right, so University of Rhode Island, yes, Department of Environmental Management, and so Gil and I had the same professors at URI, and I actually was in this area a lot as a child. I took French horn lessons from his first cousin, and
played French horn. I'm a trumpet player. Go
yeah,
figure.
there we
Look
go.
at that.
I used to play golf at Gloucester Country Club, which is about 10 minutes down the road. So my parents did. And so I spent a lot of time in this area. So he's like, hey, if you ever want extra work, you can come work at the farm and pick up drops or whatever. And so at DEM, that was kind of fun because, I like doing that kind of stuff.
Yep.
So I came, that was always his first test of anyone is like, how long can they last picking up drops? So I guess I passed the first test.
Yeah, now we don't necessarily have to do them by hand. Like my parents now have like an apple sweeper. So
Yeah.
they go between it's a cool little machine that they kind of jerry-rigged and it does this amazing job. And I just keep looking at it and I'm like, huh. And then I grew up and it was like 25 cents a bushel. I can remember kneeling on the ground under these, and they were standard apple trees, so the amount of drops was like just enormous, and scooping them all up. And back then we actually got to use those for cider, but now that's a lot harder to use them for cider because people are worried about E. coli. But be that
Well,
as
they yes and no. As long as the cider is treated, the only thing that you have to do is make sure that you don't have pathogen mold. So
Ooh.
you can use drops as long as you test for pathogen mold, and there are companies out there that do that.
Oh, very
So I did that, and we have a pass for using drops, which is tremendous because there's so much waste out there, especially when you have a pick your own operation. So we go out the day after a big weekend, and yeah, so we can use drops, and just to give you an idea, it's about $10 a bushel for cider drops.
wow.
So that's a little, there's a little, 25 cents to $10.
Yeah.
But when you think about it, minimum wage was about 6.80 an hour when I started, and now it's going to be 16
Yeah.
next
Yeah,
year.
so prices definitely change over time. Yeah. And
Right.
tell me how you got into the cider. I'm gonna jump all over the place. Um because you are talking about cider and you guys didn't start out doing cider at all.
Mm-mm. No, we customers. It's always the customer's idea. Which is awesome. We always listen to what the customers
Yeah.
say. We try to when we can. There's some things that are out of sight, but cider was one of those things that was kind of a natural.
Yep.
And then, oh, you should make cider. You should make cider. And we started looking into it. And Alan Hill, who has now passed, s- um, he had the only ultraviolet cider treatment. Um, I think in the area. I don't even know who else does it. And my husband always said his is the best cider.
Yeah, yeah,
So, and
he does make
I
great
want
cider,
to,
or did make great
yeah,
cider.
he made awesome cider. And that's where we would get it for holidays. And so we liked that processing and that you don't have to heat it. So we looked into the ultraviolet treatment, and we started out making it in a very small operation with small equipment. So we had a bladder press and the same cider the ultraviolet treatment um, equipment. And then we graduated and got a rack and press cloth. So we went from making about 20 to 30 gallons an hour or a press
Yep.
to we can make 100 gallons in a press.
Wow.
So one press. So it takes about 2 bins of apples, which is 40 bushel, and we press that into 100 gallons of cider.
Yep.
Um, and it was great, and regulation as it is. So now, when you first start out, you have to have your ultraviolet tube revalidated, and it was every 3 years for the first 10 years, and now it's every year.
Oh,
To
wow.
the- Yeah, to the tune of about $1,200. So you have to, before you make any money at all, you're spending $1,200 on the ultraviolet certification.
Wow. Every
So
year. That's
yeah, so it's, people think, oh, they're making all this cider and making all this money. No, you don't. It's a
Well,
lot of
it's like
work.
anything else. And farming is so high on inputs of
It
all
is.
kinds. Like if it isn't labor inputs, it's money inputs. And it's just a very input heavy occupation. And the financial stuff can really be a challenge.
And it creeps up. It's all the incremental. Gil always said it's the incremental expenses, all the little ones that add up. And you really have to pay attention to yeah, you make more, you try and have new ideas to make more money, but the costs, keeping them under control is maybe not as important, but it's pretty important.
Well, sure, because, we talk about those three pillars of sustainability. You've got your social sustainability, you've got your financial sustainability, and your environmental sustainability. And so, you can't ignore the financial side of it. Like it's just not unless you're independently wealthy and can afford to lose money every single year on your farm in perpetuity, which most of us are not in that.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
And you guys have had a really interesting story because in Gil's family, farming kind of would skip a generation, right?
Hmm.
Like his grandfather was really the one who loved working the farm, not so much his dad. And Gil always wanted to work the farm. And
He
so,
didn't know. He didn't know he's actually got a teaching certificate.
oh, did he? There
He
you
did. He
go.
graduated college and then he was a counselor, like a camp counselor, and he got his teaching certificate. And that was the time when there were no jobs as a teacher. So then he went to work at DEM, but at the same time, he was helping his grandparents because his grandfather wasn't able to do the same amount of activities. Farming activities was getting very physical, but
Yeah.
he was still at 85. He was up on a ladder
Yeah.
thinning.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
But Gil's first experience in grafting, I actually have a picture of him. Um, I should get it because it's
Yeah.
right on the fridge. Should I get it?
Oh, sure. Go get it.
I think he was about, I don't know, I'm gonna say 15 or 16.
Oh my gosh. Look at him.
Is it good? Can you see it?
Yeah, that is just great. Look at that.
So he grafted, I guess you have to put that wound care on the paint. It seals it. And then
Yep.
there's some black goop you got to put on and you stick in. He was doing Empire. So he
Okay.
stuck the scion into the cut in the branches and it took, and I think it took, I don't know, I'm going to say 5 or 6 years. So I don't know how old he was, maybe 17 there. So when he was 23, 24, 25, and he was harvesting these apples, he said he had like an epiphany that this is what he wants to do.
Oh,
So it
wow.
was kind of a long term, kind of warming up to it. He had a great relationship with his grandfather. He loved being on the farm and helping them. And it just was he naturally was drawn to it.
But he was doing it before he even realized that that's what he wanted to do. Like, how many, I say this about farming all the time, that it's like a gene. I swear it's in the DNA. It doesn't matter if you were born in it or not. Like, you either have the farming gene or you don't. And once it turns on, it's like, you just can't help it. Like, sooner or later, you're going to be farming.
Yeah.
And I love that. So, one of the things that I've always been impressed with your farm is that you were never afraid to try something new. And so,
That was him. Yes, he
yeah,
was.
and that was can you tell us about your organic apple endeavor? Because when you guys started doing organic apples, it was still a very new thing, and it's a tough thing to do in our area. Like some areas have a lot less pressure, and New England is not one of them. Like we seem to have every kind of apple disease that you can possibly have. And so trying to do that in an organic system is really tough. Can you talk about why you tried the organic system, how that worked for you, what you liked, what you didn't like, and where you are with that now?
Okay. So we cleared an area and we talked about what kind of apples we wanted to put in there. Gil always liked Honeycrisp, and that is naturally scab resistant. So it was kind of one of the only ones that you really could do, because even if there was a breakthrough of scab because there was so much pressure, because
Hmm.
it's not infinitely resistant to scab.
Right.
You can have a breakthrough where it's just so much pressure it just comes out. There are tools you can do, lime sulfur, and there are a few other natural tools and strategies that you can do, like spraying urea on the leaf litter, that kind of thing.
Hmm.
But I don't know if you can do that in organic, but there's ways to break down the leaf litter and kill the scab spores.
Yep.
So we talked about it, and I know URI Extension was not too thrilled with us when we were trying it because it could mean that we were allowing a different pest to thrive, that could spread to other people's, you know, orchard. So, but we talked about it and we said we'd try it, and we started on the certification. So we dug trenches and we put in manure, and we got cedar posts instead of pressure treated posts. And
Oh,
we,
wouldn't have even thought about that.
yes,
Yeah.
because you
So,
can't have pressure treated. You can't have a tree within 10 feet of a pressure treated post, or at least that's how it was.
wow.
Um, and then we went
So
down the
interesting.
road of trying to get certified. And it was so burdensome that we just said, this is just ridiculous. We can't do organic and inorganic,
Mm.
because when you do both, there's a whole other set of documentation in between that says, okay, I went into my organic orchard and I came out and I washed everything off. I mean, the organic, I washed everything off
Yeah,
before
the
I drove into
conventional.
the
Yep.
organic, and vice versa. So it was a
Oh, I hadn't
whole
even
other layer.
considered I hadn't even considered that whole side because,
Yep.
you're using the same if you're using the same sprayer, for example,
Yep.
you can
Yep.
be applying very different chemicals for the same disease even. Like that seems exhausting to me, like
Yeah.
to have basically two completely different management techniques for the
Right.
same
So,
crop and then having to wash
yes.
all that equipment, which,
Yeah.
oh, what a nightmare.
Okay. So there's that different equipment. You almost need separate dedicated equipment.
Yeah.
And then you need a separate area in the storage. And then you need a separate area in the truck and different boxes. And then you need a separate area on your farmer's market table.
Wow.
All of it. So you have to have
Oh, who knew?
complete separation. So it just made it unworkable for us, in addition to all the rules. But we did sell our first crop of non-synthetically grown apples, which we called it. That's what we called it. We didn't call it organic. So
Yeah,
not
yeah, because you have to go a
synthetically
certain
grown.
number of years before they will even give you the organic certification, right?
Right. You can't use the name. You can never use the name. You can't, we could say natural, whatever. And we sold out within about 40 minutes of our 5 bushels that we had.
Oh my gosh.
And because they were gorgeous, huge Honeycrisp, because the trees would only grow that, so many, you had to take a lot
And
of them off.
Honeycrisp were still new,
Yeah,
relatively
they were.
new then. Like they were the up and coming variety. They hadn't been usurped by anything else yet. We hadn't figured out what a pain they are to grow in other ways.
Yep.
At that point, they looked like the solution. They were like the new Cortland or
Mm.
something.
You definitely can't grow them the same. You have to use different techniques for Honeycrisp.
Yeah.
So we after that we just said, you know what? But we learned some things.
Yeah.
We tried a few different things, and we're like, oh, there's a way to manage this pest without spraying it.
Hmm. Can
There's a
you
mechanical
give me
way.
an example? Because I love this. This is one of our big themes here is that there is no such thing as a failure. I don't believe in failures. I believe in opportunities to learn. And so sometimes that mindset is challenged
Yes.
greatly.
Well, here's the
But in this
problem.
case, I'm like,
Yeah.
so tell me what it is that you learned from this experiment.
So it's a double-edged sword. Okay, so what we learned is some of the pests that drop to the ground and have um, pupa that burrow into the soil,
Yep.
that then emerge out and start your, next
Next
generation the next
cycle. Yep.
year.
Pest cycle.
Yep. If you put down landscape fabric, at least under the trees in that drip line area, you can reduce the pest presence.
Mm.
So you can reduce the population of that. But then, so number one, you need to put it down. So you need
Which is
staff.
another expense. It's another expense.
And number two, unless you're a mechanical genius like your dad, you have to have a piece of machinery to roll up the landscape fabric at the end. So you like some of the stuff you don't want to have everything done by hand, but
Right.
that's the problem is it's a lot more handwork whenever you're going to do any kind of physical um, pest reduction.
Right.
In China, they put paper bags on every apple
I
because
know.
they have to they don't have to pay their people. So they have all these people and they can afford
Yeah,
to.
labor's way cheaper. So for them, it makes more sense to use more people
Right,
than it would be here. Whereas you say we have a minimum wage for a reason. Like we do want people to actually be able to survive when they're
right.
working, and we have a high standard of living, and it's expensive and all that stuff that we know about our economy. So yeah, I think that's a really big point, and that is why, as you mentioned, my dad, they create their own stuff. Like they'll take, I mean, our rock picker was a potato digger. You know, they reconfigure, they take something that almost does the job, and then they spend like a season fixing it and tinkering with
Tweak,
it,
Tweaking it, yes.
which I would never do. Like, okay, my snow blower was sitting in my garage. Now we just had, oh, well, here it was only about a foot, but we had a foot of snow. And I'm like, oh, yeah, the auger stopped moving last year. I think it's probably a shear pin, but I don't have money to go and have somebody look at it. I don't know where the shear pins are. I don't know anything about this. I'm just going to shovel. And my neighbor comes over and he's like, let me take a look at that. In 10 minutes, we've got it all fixed. And he's like, you got to know how to do this stuff. And I'm like, no, I run machinery. I don't repair it. So now I know how to deal with the shear pins. And I'm like, oh, awesome. No problem. I can do that. But, you know, some of us are just not mechanically inclined. And I don't want to learn it. Like
Mm,
I could learn it, but I don't
yeah,
want to. So I
yeah,
learn what I absolutely need to learn. And then you've got people like my dad who really love it. So,
right.
so have you continued using any of those practices, or do you find them to be too labor intensive at this point?
Mm, some of the natural chemicals and the IPM kind of incorporate those principles, the mating disruption lures.
Yeah.
So the peach tree borer, the dogwood borer, the things that bore into the trunk, instead of using a chemical and painting it on the trunk, you can use the mating disruption lures. So you
Hmm.
just hang a little thing and it messes up their communication with each other when it's mating season. And then because they're not going to
Can't find
oviposit,
each other.
they're not going to put, they're not right. There's no fertilized egg
Yeah.
to deposit into the trunk of your tree,
Yeah.
which is nice. So that I think was probably the biggest thing. And then there were some natural compounds like copper. I think we used more copper and oxidate can be
Mm,
used for things. I'm pretty sure you can use that in organic because that's hydrogen peroxide.
hmm. Yeah.
Um,
And sometimes they just have a different formulation. Like one formulation
mm,
is organic certified because they have to. I know that one of the issues that's a problem in the Northeast, especially with this, is that it's really expensive every time you label your chemicals for both a crop and a state. And so, because Rhode Island is such a small state
right.
and has such a small relative amount of like apple growers, then a lot of chemical companies don't want to bother spending the money to get it certified for
Right.
that. So then you've got to like you might have one version of this that you could use in an organic system, but if they don't decide to
Mm,
spend the money to get
yeah.
it labeled as an organic treatment, you could use the same chemical and still technically not be organic compliant.
Oh, right. And
Yeah,
we
it's
can
so
thank
crazy.
Heather Fobert for that because she was the one who helped us partner with other states
Yeah,
so that we can kind of piggyback on their certification.
yeah, amazing.
So, oh yeah, she did good stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So this is why we need extension and
Oh,
these support systems because
yep.
farmers need support.
Right.
And so I'm going to move us into a little bit of a like we always like to talk a little bit about what's unique for women farmers and challenging for women farmers. And you had a really tough situation a couple years back because Gil got killed in a tree accident. And
Yes.
so you went from kind of the farming partner to like the farmer. and an extended family and all that kind of stuff. How have you taken care of yourself in the midst of that? What was that like? I hate this question. This is like, you're watching somebody and it's kind of like watching the news and somebody goes up and is like, "So how do you feel right now that your husband just died?" But
Yeah.
what was it like for you to navigate that? Because grief is always a horrible thing, but it also happened at the beginning of the season, right? It was in the spring.
It was in May,
Yeah.
at the end of May, and he had done most of the heavy lifting on the spraying already. Glory be to God. Thank God for the Lord's support. That's the only way that I got through, and
Mm,
that's the only reason why we've been able to continue to raise a crop. Um, Somebody's been helping me all
mm,
along the way because I couldn't have done it. Um, I watched Gil for 25 years. So, and we both, like I said, had the same training biologically. And so then I would go to meetings with him and I would ask him 100 questions. And I'm sure he got sick of all the questions because I'm just naturally curious.
yeah.
Um, and I want to understand stuff. And I always wanted to be a mechanic, but that kind of took a back seat. You can only do so many things. And I had to really pay attention to crop management,
Mm,
and I had to like Jim Steer, John Steer.
yeah.
He did the first couple of sprays for us,
Mm,
and so God surrounded me with the people that were willing to help and did help. And I had a lot of my friends and my family, thank goodness for them, um, kind of holding my hand along the way.
yeah.
Especially my college roommate Amy Lancio. She came down every weekend in
Wow.
the fall from Rochester, New York.
Wow.
So, and her husband actually stayed for a few weeks.
Oh,
In
I'm getting
actually,
shivers.
it was
Yeah.
like 5 weeks that first year, and then he stayed like 3 weeks the second year. And my staff really has done the heavy lifting. Jen, she learned how to stack bins 5 high with the forklift, which is
Wow.
very nerve wracking.
Yeah.
And Kelly took over all the organizing for all the farmers markets,
Mm,
and Pedro has been learning the spraying. Gil was he didn't want anybody to spray. He didn't want anybody to get exposed.
mm,
So, Pedro had done some, but he's doing a lot of it now. And Andrew, Gil's son, my stepson, he's helped spray for the first 6 or 8 weeks. Actually, it was longer than that. It was until September. So May 25th until about the end of September.
mm.
And Stacy, she did the Facebook posts and a lot of the marketing, and
Yep.
she
And
helped
that's
write.
Gil's
Gil's
daughter.
daughter, yep.
Yep.
She wrote our food safety manual and she wrote our HACCP plan for the cider, and
Oh,
that's been
wow.
so important. So, and Luke, he grew the corn and he grew sunflowers and pumpkins and well, the
And
first year
that's
we
your
did
son together.
my
For
son,
those,
yeah,
right.
they're all mine. They're all my kids.
Of course they are.
Uh,
Of course they are.
so,
But just
uh,
to also emphasize the fact that not only were you dealing with a death, which is always traumatic, and a business, which
mm,
is a lot, you also had children from with different backgrounds that are all part of the family and have a different relationship with you as well. And so
mm,
so, that's a lot to navigate. And so I'm just wondering, like, how have you taken care of you?
how have I taken care of me?
Yeah, I know.
I go to church every week. I pray. I The church has been a huge resource for me,
Tell me
spiritually.
how, because I mean, my faith is the most important thing to me. And for people who are
So,
not people of faith, can you just kind of
hmm,
unpack what that was is like for you?
so we had started going to Awakening Church in Smithfield with Stacy
Hmm.
about 2 years before Gil passed, and um, Gil's faith probably was deepening. before he passed. And we have a great set of church leaders there.
Mm.
And the pastor there came and did Gil's service here at the farm.
Oh.
And he said God drew him close at the end.
Mm.
And some of the things that he talked about, telling me that, God restores you, um, Jesus restores you.
Mm.
He was walking with me the whole way. So the word, reading the Bible, just understanding that I'm not in control
Mm.
and that the Lord has his reasons for everything and I'm not supposed to know it.
Mm.
So I'm never going to understand it fully. And we don't even comprehend what's on the other side of death.
Mm.
And so my trust in Jesus is just exploded. I just know that whatever it is that he is going to accomplish is what's most important. And I am going to listen.
Yeah.
So I've been trying to pray and get discernment about what my steps forward are. And it's not been easy.
Yeah,
We've
can
had
you
some,
talk a little bit about that? I mean,
some
as much as you feel comfortable with.
yeah.
Because
Every
again,
time
you
I'm
know,
not
the married in part is a little bit tricky sometimes because the land, it all depends on how things get passed down, and sometimes things don't get passed down to spouses, sometimes they get passed down to children, sometimes they get put like my house goes in a trust. Like so
Mm,
like my kids are the beneficiaries of a trust, so it's not even like technically it's not really mine. I mean, I can take it out of
mhm,
the trust and do stuff with it. So,
mhm.
yeah. So what has the nuts and bolts of that been like
And
for
so
you?
all of that is there was none of that in place because Gil and I talked about it and talked about it and talked about it.
Mm.
And we were an LLC at one point, which means that we were both in the LLC, and that if that had stayed in place, I would not have had the issues that I had. So we didn't want to pay the $400 a year, duh, to register with the state. And if we had, it would have made it so that I didn't have to open a whole new company
Mm.
when he died because he was a sole proprietor. So, to all of you farmers out there, if you don't want your health department licenses and the registration on your vehicles and your insurance to end when your sole proprietor dies, and you have to start a whole new company with a whole different EIN. So IRS has to
Oh,
get involved. So you have to close that company and
new
then you have to
sales tax, new all of
open
that.
the company. Yep. It was all of that and it was just chaos. And I am still buttoning up some things and we're in the third year.
Yeah.
So it'll be 3 years, May 25th, and we're just about ready to close the estate. It's just been kind of crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. So
And
thank you for sharing this because I feel like, we've had a couple of people on that have talked about succession planning. And,
mm,
there's this feeling that succession planning is something you need to do. Like you can put it off until you're older. Like
mm,
Gil wasn't old. Like
he was
you're
not,
not old, and
no,
so like whatever that definition of old is, but it sure is not you guys. And so you never know. Like we
right.
think about the fact that, oh, well, somebody could get sick and that gives you a little time to figure out what's going on. It literally is one minute he's having coffee and
Yep.
then an hour later it's like, wait a minute, where's Gil?
Exactly.
And he's dead. And so the ramifications of that are enormous. And I want to thank you for sharing that because I
Mm,
really do encourage all of you out there. you gotta do this planning, and you're not going to deal with it. You're going to be dead. But
Right.
the people left behind, the people you love, the people you care about, that you have worked so hard to create this beautiful legacy for, could conceivably lose all of that if you
Right.
don't have the right things in place. Like, you have enough familiarity that you could go through all those processes. You could start to do that. You didn't have to, I mean, did you have a spray license on your own? Like, I'm just thinking about something very basic. So
No,
so if
no. So
that's all
yeah.
under his spray,
So
under his spray license.
Rhode Island DEM came through. I had a license probably 5 or 6 years before. I
Yeah.
took the class. Andrew and I took the class together, and we got it because I wanted to learn, and he was going to teach us, and we just never he never got to it because he never wanted us to spray.
Right.
And then we got an enclosed spray tractor, and I think he felt a little more comfortable, but still hadn't taken the step because
Sure.
really the exposure is when you mix them, when you put the things in the spray tank. It's not just the spraying.
No.
But Rhode Island DEM, the pesticide program, I can't say enough good things. They helped me through. Um, Howie Cook did he was able to give me the test to get it because he knew it was an emergency. My tax exemption certificate for a new business, you have to have it for a year.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I
Yeah. Think about that.
operated, you have to have, so I couldn't, I had to pay tax on stuff for a year, almost a year. I didn't want to re-register the vehicles because was I going to get charged the sales tax on vehicles that I've already owned for 10 years?
Oh.
Because you know what I mean? Because now the Gill sole proprietorship had to sell it to Barden Family Orchard LLC, and they do it based on the value of the car. The tax is figured that way. It's not, oh, I'm going to sell it to Barden Family Orchard for $1. No, that's not how it's done.
Mm-mm.
So, Ken Ayers was able to help get me through the process with the Department of Motor Vehicles. So
Yeah.
he helped renew, he helped me do that. So, and I would say that they were probably the only agency that was openly accommodating. Most of them did it begrudgingly,
Yeah.
which is really sad when you think about it. They don't really treat you as a human being.
Mm-mm.
It's just, okay, this is what the books say, this is what the rules say. It broke my heart because it's like, really, you can't see that this is not a situation that I asked for.
Well, again, that goes to the grieving part, that
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
hard enough to do your business stuff in a normal setting. Like, how many of us gripe about doing our taxes, and we gripe about filing our sales tax, and we gripe about all this stuff. And and that's just a normal part of business. Like, it's part of
Mm.
being a business owner.
Yep.
And then you add a death, and you've got all of that grieving that's going on, and you're trying to run the regular business, and you have to
Mm.
now create a whole new business.
Yep.
And one would like to think that people would be able to look at other people and have some compassion. And I think, at the risk of getting into like politics and that kind of stuff, I think that's something that our nation is really struggling with as a whole. Like,
Mm.
we're so hung up sometimes on, is it legal? Is it not legal?
Right.
As opposed to, is it right or is it wrong? Like,
Hmm.
is it right to take a grieving woman and not help her through this? Like, not to say don't break the law. Like, I don't want us breaking laws and doing all that stuff, but can you make an accommodation
Yep.
knowing that this is a unique situation? Most people are
Right.
not going to find themselves in this particular situation, although probably more people do than we are
Then
aware
we
of.
realized that's right. Because I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one who had to go through this. It happens all the time. And the fact that things haven't been adjusted for that, my staff is all the same, my
Yeah.
equipment is all the same. We're doing the same process that we did 2 days before Gil died.
Yep.
as we are 2 days after Gil died, but now all of a sudden everything is different because now I'm considered a new business. So everybody out there, make sure that you are protected with some kind with the LLC because the LLC will make it so it's seamless as long as your names are both on it,
Yeah.
or three or four or eight. So now what I need to do is now I need to transition to the next generation so their names are on it. So if I die, they are going to be able to just assume control over
Yeah.
the LLC. So we put the land in an LLC so we
Yep.
can transition the land. They're going to have the ownership of the land. So yeah, those not all of the departments were as accommodating,
Yeah.
and it just was very frustrating, very very frustrating that all that changed was a number. Yep.
Yeah. I definitely feel that. Sorry, I'm choking here.
Bless you.
I had the cat. The cat was up here and he like sticks his tail in my face and then all of a sudden like one piece of fur gets somewhere and I'm like it's very elegant. I love how I'm so very professional. So, so so I could talk to you forever. I want to again thank you for sharing some of this stuff because I think it's got to be really challenging for you to talk about this grief, but also like it's really important for people to hear this and to realize that this is something that can happen to any of us and not to put
Mm,
us in a fear state, but to say, plan for it. Like there
right.
are resources to plan for this before it happens, and that putting it off until tomorrow because it doesn't seem like the most pressing thing is actually probably one of the worst things you can do
Mm-hmm.
because disasters don't come with a red flag ahead of them saying, "Hey, by the way, I'm coming, so make sure you're
Yes, and that reminds me of one more quick thing.
ready."
Farmers tend to be very self-sufficient about everything they do,
Yeah.
and anyone who runs a saw,
Mm.
anyone who is using a chainsaw should know what they're doing. Not that Gil didn't know what he was doing, but he was rushing around because we had just had a freeze the week before, and he was afraid
Mm.
that we were going to have lost the crop. And so stress was running a little high in him. And I think he just was not fully attending to what he was doing. And so when you're running the saw, you have to know, you have to be able to size every tree up. So I encouraged Farm Bureau, and I think there is a state agency. I don't know if it's run through DEM or not, but take a chainsaw class. Take a class. A lot of people, they just pick it up and they're like, yeah, my dad showed me how to do this or this, but are you wearing chaps? Because Gil cut his knee and he
Mm.
cut his finger, a few months before. Like there was stuff
Mm.
going on. And
Oh, my grandfather's missing the top of his thumb from a chainsaw
yeah,
years
so,
and years ago. Yep.
and I think it couldn't be expressed enough that, you can't just walk up to a tree and expect that it's just going to cut like every other tree.
Mhm.
So I highly encourage people to take a chainsaw class
And not be out there by yourself.
and
Like,
not be out there by yourself. That's
I know that it's so, and I don't, it might not have changed a single thing. So,
chaps. People need chaps. You got to wear chaps
and, and,
and
and have
take a
people
chain.
who know where you are, who are checking in
Yes.
on you and preferably with somebody because
Right.
every tree can take a bad kick. Like you just never know what's going to happen. Like it happens. And
Right.
so having somebody there, and I was saying, all of these things could have been in place and maybe it wouldn't have saved Gil anyway, but
That was yeah,
it,
because it
but
was a
it,
pretty big tree.
but it might have because, you never know. A few minutes in one of those life-saving emergencies really can
Mm.
be the difference between life and death. And if you're laying there bleeding internally for an hour, that's not a good thing. And, not to be gory to all of you, but just to be like, take
Mm,
care of yourself with the dangerous equipment because farming is a dangerous occupation.
that's
And
right.
Sandie, I know you have places to go, people to see, things to do, so I need to let you go. But before you go, I'm going to ask you my signature question. If you had one thing that you thought every farmer should know, one piece of advice, what would that be?
Hmm. Wow. Make sure that you balance your work with your life
Mm,
and don't put off things because you think you're too busy today. Gil always made time at the end of the day to play with his children. He would shoot baskets with Andrew or Stacy or Luke he would throw the baseball with.
he went to ball
They
games.
have good, yeah, he always went to the baseball games. He might have missed a couple. He coached. Um, I remember we were getting ready for a harvest party with the pig roast, and he's like, "Yep, I gotta put the pig on, and then I gotta go coach, two basketball games, and then come back, and then we would do our harvest party." But he did his best to try and make time for his kids, especially the sports. That's the thing I really feel like he had in common with them, and so try to not miss it.
Yeah,
Your spouse is the most important friend you have, so make time for them.
yeah, absolutely.
And I know the Hutchisons. They at one point, Mike Hutchison, Robin Hollow Farm,
Yep,
he decided that he was going to take Sundays off. He said it's the best thing he ever did
yep.
because it gives you that time to regroup and get grounded and realize what's important.
Yeah,
So
and you think that you can't financially do it, and my answer to that is always, you know what? The Amish never work on a Sunday. Never
yeah,
ever.
yep,
They do not work on a Sunday. And you know what? They manage to do just well financially because if you work with an Amish farmer for anything, you just know that you don't do business on a Sunday. And so
yep,
your clients will adjust to you. And the ones who are not willing to are frankly not the clients you want anyway, because
right.
you want clients that care about you as a farmer as well as the product that you're delivering. I love that. Thank you so much, Sandie. Thank all of
It's
you
great to
for
talk to
joining
you.
us, and we will see you next
Yes.
time on Food, Flowers, and Fun.
Where's my jackknife?
All right, Kristen. Thank you.
How do you multiply by fractions now?
Farmers calling, our show is all done. Goodbye, farewell, so long, adieu. See you next week, same time, same place for Food, Flowers, and Fun. Go in peace. Visit us at www.penlightfarmers.com.